confusion, it's classification, because narcissists don't love people equally. They rank them, and how they treat their real choice versus an option exposes everything. If this is resonating and you're starting to recognize patterns instead of blaming yourself, pause for a second and subscribe, because clarity is the first step out of psychological chaos. When a narcissist identifies someone as their real choice, their behavior becomes noticeably regulated, controlled, and strategic. This does not mean healthier or more loving. It means calculated. The real choice is not someone they feel safe being emotionally messy with. It is someone they need to preserve for stability, status, or long-term supply. Because of that, the narcissist monitors their tone, their reactions, and their availability around this person. They are careful not to destabilize the relationship too much. They show up on time. They follow predictable patterns. They may even appear emotionally mature at first glance. This regulation exists because the real choice is too valuable to risk losing through impulsive behavior. In contrast, when someone is positioned as just an option, the narcissist allows their dysregulation to spill outward. The option becomes the emotional dumping ground. Mood swings, silent treatments, sudden affection followed by withdrawal, and inconsistent communication all appear here. This is not accidental or unconscious. It is the result of an internal calculation that the option is less likely to leave, less likely to confront, or more willing to tolerate confusion. The narcissist does not fear consequences in this dynamic, so their behavior becomes erratic. The option is used to offload frustration, insecurity, and boredom without the narcissist having to self-regulate. This difference is rooted in control, not attachment. Narcissists regulate themselves only when regulation protects something they need. Around the real choice, they fear exposure, abandonment, or loss of status, so they contain their volatility. Around the option, they feel no such risk, so they externalize their emotional chaos. The option often mistakes this intensity for intimacy, believing that emotional access means closeness. In reality, it signals disposability. The narcissist is not being vulnerable, they are being unchecked. Over time, this dynamic trains the option to self-regulate for the narcissist. The option learns to anticipate moods, soften reactions, and absorb instability, while the real choice remains buffered from the narcissist's internal disorder. This is why options often feel exhausted, anxious, and confused, while the real choice appears calm and secure. The difference is not worth or value. It is proximity to the narcissist's uncontained self. When a narcissist has identified someone as their real choice, consistency becomes a tool they use deliberately. Communication follows a pattern. Availability is predictable. Affection is measured and stable enough to maintain attachment without creating panic. This is not because the narcissist is emotionally secure, but because predictability keeps their primary source anchored. Consistency reduces conflict, limits questions, and preserves control. The real choice knows when they will be contacted, what tone to expect, and where they stand most of the time. That sense of clarity is engineered, not organic, and it exists to keep the relationship functioning smoothly for the narcissist's benefit. With someone positioned as an option, confusion replaces consistency. The narcissist alternates between intense attention and sudden withdrawal, not as a reflection of changing feelings, but as a means of control. Hot and cold behavior destabilizes the nervous system of the other person, keeping them focused, hypervigilant, and emotionally invested. The option is left guessing what they did wrong, what changed, or how to regain the narcissist's attention. This confusion is not random. It serves to shift power by keeping the option emotionally off balance and constantly seeking reassurance. The narcissist understands, often intuitively, that clarity empowers people. When someone knows where they stand, they can set boundaries, make decisions, or leave. Confusion, on the other hand, keeps people stuck. By withholding consistency from the option, the narcissist creates a dynamic where the other person works harder for less. Each moment of affection feels earned, and each withdrawal feels like a personal failure. This reinforces self-doubt and deepens dependency. The real choice is spared this psychological turbulence because the narcissist cannot afford destabilization there. Too much inconsistency might provoke confrontation or abandonment, both of which threaten supply. So the narcissist manages themselves, suppresses impulses, and offers just enough steadiness to maintain the bond. The option becomes the place where impulses are released. Boredom is entertained, and ego is soothed through intermittent reinforcement. Over time, the option may feel an addictive pull toward the narcissist, mistaking anxiety for connection, while the real choice experiences a calmer but still transactional relationship. The distinction is not about emotional depth, but about who the narcissist believes they can afford to unsettle. When a narcissist identifies a real choice, that person becomes part of their public and private image management. The narcissist is highly invested in how they are perceived, and the real choice often functions as proof of their worth, stability, or success. Around this person, the narcissist curates behavior carefully. They may appear supportive, respectful, or even generous, not because of empathy, but because this relationship reflects back on them. The real choice is someone they want to be seen with, aligned with, or validated by. Any conflict is managed quietly, minimized, or reframed to protect the narcissist's image and sense of superiority. An option serves a very different psychological function. Options are not protected, they are used. They become emotional disposal sites where frustration, rage, boredom, envy, and insecurity are released. When the narcissist feels threatened, criticized, or diminished elsewhere, the option absorbs the fallout. This is where harsh words, dismissiveness, sarcasm, and emotional neglect appear. The narcissist feels no urgency to repair damage here because the option is not tied to their self-image. If the option leaves, it is inconvenient, not devastating. This dynamic explains why narcissists may defend their real choice publicly while undermining an option privately. The real choice helps maintain the illusion of being a good partner, a good person, or a victim of circumstances. The option, however, is where contradictions emerge. They see the entitlement, the lack of empathy, and the emotional cruelty because they are exposed to the narcissist's unfiltered internal state. The narcissist does not fear being fully seen by the option, because they do not assign them narrative power. For the option, this creates deep confusion. They may experience intense emotional access, believing it signals closeness or trust. In reality, it signals expendability. The narcissist is not sharing vulnerability, they are offloading emotional waste. The option becomes the place where the narcissist does not have to manage themselves. Over time, the option may feel drained, invisible, or blamed for problems they did not create, while the real choice experiences a polished version of the narcissist designed to preserve admiration and control. When a narcissist shows respect, it is never rooted in mutual recognition or emotional equality. It is a strategy deployed when it serves a purpose. Around their real choice, respect is used as a stabilizing tool. They listen selectively, soften their language, and appear considerate because disrespect in that dynamic carries a cost. The real choice has leverage, whether through status, resources, reputation, or the narcissist's fear of abandonment. Respect here is not felt, it is calculated. It exists to keep the person invested, calm, and available, and it can vanish the moment the narcissist feels secure or superior again. With someone positioned as an option, respect is inconsistent or entirely absent. Boundaries are ignored, feelings are minimized, commitments are broken casually. The narcissist feels entitled to this behavior because they do not perceive the option as having power or permanence. Any courtesy shown is conditional and short-lived, often appearing only when the narcissist needs attention, validation, or reassurance. Once that need is met, dismissiveness returns. This is why options often feel whiplash between being valued and being invisible. What makes this dynamic especially damaging is that the narcissist reframes respect as something to be earned rather than a baseline. If the option is hurt, the narcissist may imply they are too sensitive. If they protest mistreatment, they are accused of being demanding. This shifts responsibility away from the narcissist and trains the option to tolerate less in exchange for brief moments of decency. Respect becomes a reward, not a given. Even with the real choice, respect is fragile. It depends entirely on compliance. The moment the real choice challenges the narcissist's narrative, asserts independence, or threatens the narcissist's control, respect erodes. The tone changes. Subtle contempt creeps in. What once looked like mutual regard reveals itself as conditional tolerance. The narcissist does not respect people, they respect positions. When the position is threatened, so is the behavior. This is why attempts to earn lasting respect from a narcissist fail. No amount of loyalty, patience, or understanding transforms strategic respect into genuine regard. It remains transactional, revocable, and tied to utility, and the moment usefulness declines, the mask slips, and the underlying entitlement resurfaces without apology. Accountability in narcissistic dynamics is not a moral function. It is a risk assessment. When a narcissist is dealing with their real choice, accountability may appear in limited, carefully managed ways. They might offer a partial apology, acknowledge a behavior, or briefly validate the other person's feelings. This is not driven by remorse or empathy. It is driven by fear of loss. The real choice represents stability, supply, or status, and losing that position would threaten the narcissist's self-concept. Accountability becomes a tool to preserve access. Even then, it is narrow, conditional, and often followed by subtle defensiveness or justification. With someone positioned as an option, accountability disappears almost entirely. The narcissist sees no incentive to self-reflect because there is no perceived consequence. If the option is hurt, the narcissist reframes the issue. They deny, minimize, deflect, or reverse blame. The option is told they misunderstood, overreacted, or caused the problem themselves. This is not confusion on the narcissist's part. It is a deliberate avoidance of responsibility in a dynamic where they feel safe from repercussions. The option is expected to absorb harm without repair. What is especially destabilizing is that the option may witness the narcissist take responsibility elsewhere. They may hear about apologies given to others, compromises made, or moments of apparent humility. This creates the illusion that accountability is possible if only the option behaves differently, communicates better, or waits longer. In reality, the difference is not behavior, it is position. Accountability is offered only where it protects the narcissist's supply. Even when accountability is shown to the real choice, it is often incomplete. The narcissist may apologize for the outcome but not the intent. They may express regret while subtly blaming circumstances or the other person's reaction. This preserves their internal narrative of superiority. True accountability requires vulnerability, shame tolerance, and empathy, all of which threaten the narcissist's fragile self-structure. Over time, the option internalizes the absence of accountability as a personal failure. They work harder to explain, soften, and accommodate, while the narcissist becomes increasingly entitled to harm without repair. The dynamic teaches the option that their pain does not warrant acknowledgement, while the narcissist learns that denial is sufficient, reinforcing a system where responsibility is rationed according to utility rather than truth. When a narcissist invests time, effort, or reassurance, it is never guided by emotional attachment or mutual care. It is guided by utility. The real choice receives more consistent investment because that person serves an efficient function in the narcissist system. They may provide stability, status, financial security, admiration, or identity reinforcement. Because losing them would disrupt the narcissist's sense of control, the narcissist allocates resources strategically. They remember important dates, follow through on promises more often, and offer reassurance when there is a risk of detachment. This investment is not generous, it is preventative. With someone positioned as an option, investment becomes minimal and unpredictable. Time is given when convenient. Effort appears briefly and then disappears. Reassurance is withheld or delayed. The narcissist expects the option to remain available with little maintenance. This is not because the option matters less emotionally, but because the narcissist believes they can extract supply without paying relational costs. The option is expected to tolerate neglect, excuses, and broken promises while remaining responsive and emotionally present. This imbalance often confuses the option. They may believe that increased effort on their part will lead to increased investment from the narcissist. They overgive, over-explain, and over-accommodate, hoping to earn consistency. But narcissists do not respond to effort with reciprocity. They respond with entitlement. The more the option tolerates underinvestment, the more the narcissist feels justified in offering less. The real choice, meanwhile, is not receiving investment as a sign of love. They are receiving it because they are costly to lose. The narcissist understands that reassurance prevents questioning, and effort prevents confrontation. These behaviors function as containment strategies. They are designed to keep the real choice regulated and predictable so the narcissist can continue extracting supply without disruption. This dynamic reinforces a painful illusion that love is measured by effort. In reality, effort follows leverage. Narcissists invest where withdrawal would hurt them most and disengage where consequences are low. The option becomes a place where the narcissist conserves energy, knowing the other person will compensate for the lack. Over time, the option may feel invisible, depleted, and constantly chasing proof of worth, while the narcissist remains emotionally unchanged, having learned that minimal input still produces maximum return. When a narcissist uses jealousy, it is never accidental or spontaneous. It is engineered. Around an option, jealousy is deliberately activated as a control mechanism. The narcissist references other people, flirts openly, withholds information, or suddenly becomes vague about their availability. These behaviors are meant to trigger comparison, insecurity, and competition. The option is pushed into a state of hyper-awareness, constantly scanning for signs of replacement. This keeps their attention locked onto the narcissist and weakens their sense of self. Jealousy here functions as psychological glue. With the real choice, this tactic is used very differently or not at all. The narcissist avoids destabilizing jealousy in relationships they cannot afford to lose. They may still triangulate subtly, but they do so carefully, ensuring it does not threaten abandonment. The real choice is often reassured, protected from overt competition, and kept feeling relatively secure. This is not kindness. It is risk management. Too much jealousy could provoke boundaries, confrontation, or emotional withdrawal, all of which endanger the narcissist's supply. Options, however, are exposed to constant triangulation. The narcissist may compare them to others, mention exes, or imply they are in demand. This is designed to erode the option's confidence and increase their emotional investment. The option begins to believe they must perform better, be more accommodating, or tolerate more in order to secure their position. The narcissist benefits from this dynamic because it shifts the burden of maintenance entirely onto the other person. What makes this especially manipulative is that the narcissist often denies intent. If confronted, they claim innocence, accuse the option of being jealous or insecure, or insist nothing is happening. This gaslighting deepens confusion and self-doubt. The option is left questioning their perceptions while remaining emotionally hooked. Meanwhile, the narcissist gains validation from being desired by multiple people without having to commit fully to any of them. The real choice is shielded because they are not meant to compete. They are meant to stay. The option is made to compete because competition keeps them engaged. This distinction reveals that jealousy is not a byproduct of attraction, but a lever of control. The narcissist uses it where instability benefits them and avoids it where stability is essential, turning human emotions into tools for dominance rather than connection. When a narcissist interacts with people, roles are fluid, but safety is rigidly calculated. The real choice occupies a position of relative safety. Their emotional access is contained, and their presence is protected. Even if conflicts arise, the narcissist moderates their behavior to prevent permanent loss. The real choice benefits from predictability, measured communication, and restraint. Their position guarantees that they are unlikely to be discarded impulsively because their value to the narcissist is high and their loss would be costly. Stability is enforced not out of care, but out of self-interest. Options, in contrast, exist in a zone of instability. They can be elevated temporarily to serve a need, then devalued, ignored, or discarded without consequence. The narcissist's behavior is erratic, emotional, and unpredictable around them. Options are expendable precisely because their role is not essential to the narcissist's core sense of control or identity. They are safe targets for the release of unfiltered emotion, for testing power, or for eliciting attention without real risk. The lack of safety teaches the option to self-monitor constantly, to anticipate moods, and to overextend themselves emotionally in ways the narcissist never does with the real choice. This fluidity in roles also means that today's real choice can become tomorrow's option if the dynamics shift. If the narcissist perceives reduced utility, diminished admiration, or increased challenge from the real choice, the person's stability can be destabilized. Conversely, an option can be temporarily elevated if they suddenly provide strategic benefit, such as access, validation, or emotional supply. What never changes is that the narcissist maintains strict control over who is protected and who is expendable. For the people involved, this creates a constant tension between perceived intimacy and actual risk. Safety is never guaranteed for anyone outside the core supply. Options experience instability as a rule. Real choices experience containment as a privilege, but it is always conditional, strategic, and reversible. Understanding this distinction is crucial because it clarifies that the difference between a real choice